Our Rutland was produced in the spring of 1941 by the Rutland Lions Club for viewing by Rutland members of the Vermont National Guard, activated and stationed at Camp Blanding, Florida. This mostly color film, with black and white segments, was supervised by Robert Franzoni, manager of the sports department of the Wilson Clothing Company located in the Mead Building, operator of Wilson Sports, Wilson Photo Processing, and Wilson Country Camera. The footage was wonderfully photographed by Gerald Grady. This film captures, like a Norman Rockwell painting, Rutland in the spring of 1941 with all the vibrancy of its downtown and the happy, carefree attitude of a city about to be plunged into the darkness of World War II. I will be a guide for the segments, some of which change quickly. I will try to identify locations, events, and people. On a personal note, I first saw segments of this film on numerous Vermont Public Television Vermont Memory specials in the 1990s. I investigated and discovered its existence, and have tried ever since to view the entire film. In 2007, my wife Judy and I traveled to the Vermont Historical Society in Montpelier to view it, but due to a mix-up, it was not available. Finally, thanks to the persistence of myself and the Rutland Historical Society, especially Ben Burge, Jim Davidson, and Carolyn Rantville, we have finally secured a nice copy. So, sit back and enjoy a nostalgic trip into a bygone era. Coming into Rutland on South Main Street, we're actually at the Amico station at the corner of the Cold River Road, and we're approaching the Cold River Garage, which is at the corner of the Cold River Road. We just missed Goodspeed's store. And as you approach Rutland in those days, many fraternal organizations had signs out. The Lions Club, Knights of Pythias, the Rotary Club in the background. The building in the background that appears maroon and gray was the Laird Blacksmith Shop on South Main Street. I think it was 256 South Main, and it was in operation, I think, into the 1950s, this being 1941. And we're looking northerly towards Curtis Avenue right here. Many, many trees there. I don't know if they're all elms or not, but I'm sure a lot of them. So across the road, we will see the Rutland City, Rutland Town line marker. And right there is where Aldi's is now. Sam Stoll built a Chevrolet dealership, I believe in 1947. And he built it so that he would get city water. So the car wash and all plumbing was on the city side, and the rest of the building was in the town. Then in later years that became Smith Buick, and then currently it's Aldi's. And the area you see just north of that is Marble Avenue and the back end of Coolidge Avenue, a very undeveloped area at that time. Now we're looking at the intersection of South Main and Strongs Avenue, and we're looking at the Davis Esso station, which later became Waltz. And this originally was the location of what they called the Grandview Hotel, a large four-story building that was torn down in 1930 to build this present gas station. And this gas station was remodeled in the 1950s. It's currently the home of Stewart's gas station Mini Mart at that same location. I'm not sure if they used that building or they actually built a new one. There's also some directional signs here for various locations, no mileage given, just turn left or turn right. And some various tenements can be seen in the background. Okay, this is the Rutland Lions Club. These are the gentlemen that sponsored this film. The first gentleman is Dr. Charles Beale, and as we come over, there's a gentleman in front with his hand in front of him, and that's Edmund Boyce, who is the head of the math department at Rutland High School. Behind Mr. Boyce, the taller gentleman with the dark hair, is Robert Stafford, a Rutland lawyer who became state's attorney, lieutenant governor, and Washington senator for Vermont. Very nice man. I knew him. The gentleman with the crutch. Now we're going to have to watch him because he appears quite a bit in the film, and he's usually downtown, and he's usually accompanied by attractive young ladies. So I'm not sure who he is, and I'm not sure how he hurt himself. But as we scan over, you'll see Charles J. Nick Smith in the background, the man with curly hair that's parted in the middle. My mom worked for him at the Smith Roberts Insurance Agency in the Gryphon building downtown from 66 to 78. Very nice man. He became a school commissioner, but I never saw him with so much hair. And as we scan over more, I don't know who the rest of these gentlemen are except for Dr. Colino. Now, Dr. Baptiste Colino was a Rutland dentist for many years. I'm sure many of you knew him, I should say. And then as we scan over farther, this gentleman is going to be sent to the principal's office because he's acting up for the cameraman. But these are the members of the Rutland Lions Club who sponsored this film. The bell is ringing. The Lions, by the way, are at the Knights of Pythias Hall on Center Street, which later became the Moose Club across from the Baptist Church. And apparently they use their lodge hall for their meetings. Not sure what the Knights of Pythias were, but they were there for a while. I think Chief Wiltonski told me he was a member of that group. There's a gentleman with the crutches again. We do get a smile out of him here. And Dr. Colino is going to assist him in. I think this gentleman is at Perkins, but I'm not sure. And the rest of these men, as I said, if I haven't identified them, I don't know them. They're inside the lodge having their meeting. And I wish it was a little brighter so you could see better, but I don't know in those days if they had indoor lighting for cameras or not. And as we scan around, we'll notice quite a few people smoking, which was the vogue in those days and even into the 70s and 80s. And let's see, there's a fellow lighting up right there. There's Robert Stafford again. There's a gentleman with the crutch showing his injury, I guess. And let's see, as we scan across, I'm not sure if that's a bar or not, but there does seem to be a lot of glassware there. And the men are all posing for the camera. Oops, it's water, I think. And now we're singing, although you can't hear it, but I'm not sure what they're singing, but they're getting right into it. And then you're going to see a gentleman playing the piano. There's the leader of the Songfest, gentleman playing the piano by the flag. Here's Robert Stafford again. And we're going to see the Lions Club banner, Rutland Lions Club, organized in 1938. I imagine they hung that up when they held their meeting. Now we're going to flash to downtown. And there's two gentlemen walking towards the camera, dressed in matching sport coats, but ignore those gentlemen because in the background is the marquee for the Grand Theater. And that's one of the few colored pictures I've seen of that marquee. These gentlemen are marching towards the Carbine Clothing Company in the Gryphon building. They may be models, I'm not sure. Carbine Clothing Company was located at the intersections of Route 4 and 7. They call it the Crossroads of Vermont. The gentleman in the doorway, I think, is Mr. Carbine, but I'm not sure. It later became Carbine Andersons. And you're going to notice a lot of people downtown. And I'm not sure if it was because this film was being made or because it was maybe Good Friday. In the window of Carbines, you'll see a closed sign, and I think it says closed from 12 to 3 on Good Friday, which most downtown businesses did do. And it might have come for all the people who had gotten out of church, or as I said, they may just be downtown to be in the film. Young lady waving at the camera. There's that sign behind her. This is the old Rutland Hospital. This is what was called the Nurses' Home on Nichols Street. This was moved from the location of the brick building that's there today over to its present location. And it was originally, as I said, the Rutland Hospital, and then became a home for nurses that worked at the hospital and maybe didn't want to commute. And it was also the residence of nursing students, which nurses wore special hats. I think it symbolized the nursing school they went to. And you're going to see a couple more come out here, one with a cape. And then you'll see some nursing students go in, and they're dressed, in my estimation, kind of old-fashioned, but I think it was just to distinguish them from the, there they are, from the regular nurses. This is 1941. This is the railroad station downtown, and I have no idea what's going on here, but there's a truck parked there. Merchants Row, this car with a young couple in it is being photographed, I believe, from either the back of a truck or somebody sitting on the bumper of the car in front of them. And they're coming down Merchants Row, and they're probably in the area of Freeman Marcus right now, McNeil and Reedy's. Police officer is assisting pedestrians across the road. Downtown Rutland, very busy. Look at the cars. Railroad station in the background. Bicycles were safe in those days. So this vehicle will take a turn onto West Street, and they'll be heading west on West Street. There's the Grand again behind them. A lot of traffic, a lot of hustle and bustle. Okay, now we're on Center Street. I see the Mayfair Beauty Salon. Many young ladies, women walking up the street. They all seem to be well dressed. It shows you the fashions from 1941. Trying to see here. I don't know if this is a mailman or a delivery man coming. This gentleman coming looks like a private investigator. He's very serious. He's going to walk right towards the camera. Don't know who he is. Ladies with furs. I see Sam Frank cigar sign. Oh, here comes Officer Gino Franzoni. Gino Franzoni became the Rutland County Sheriff in 1942 and served in that capacity until 1955, when he died suddenly at the age of 50 of a heart attack. And Gino was a very friendly man, friendly officer. He worked with my dad for 6 years, and he's being accompanied by S. Elizabeth Keefe McCormick, better known as Sis Keefe. And she was the Rutland school nurse along with Mary Margaret Burke for what seemed like 100 years. But she's very attractive in this picture. She's young, and she's downtown on Center Street. So Gino gives a tip of the hat. Here's a gentleman with some tulips, hopefully for his wife. And this gentleman looks like he was in a movie, but I can't think of what actor he resembles. There's Sis Keefe again. She came back for a second showing. And we have some soldiers. I see the F.B. Howard Jewelers sign, Howe Coffee Shop sign. J.C. Penney's is down the street a ways. Just seems to be too many people on the street for an average day, so I'm going to guess it might be Good Friday afternoon. Lady's coming towards the camera. This lady is going to walk into the cameraman if she doesn't watch it. There's our gentleman with the crutch. I'm not sure who he is or why he's down there, but and there's some friendly ladies smiling for the cameraman. See a lot of men in uniform, men smoking. People always think cars were all black, but they weren't. You can see a lot of colored vehicles parked. I see blue, I see green, red. Okay, the Mead Building at the corner of Center Street and Merchants Row. Many offices in there, insurance offices, lawyers. On the ground floor you had Wilson's Clothing, You had the Rutland, I can't remember the name, I'll see it here in a minute, a bank. Rutland Trust Company. This is the Clement building, the under the clock at the corner of Evelyn and West. You're going to see Evelyn Street in a moment. We call this the Canyons of Evelyn Street. All those brick buildings on the left were torn down around 1966 through 69. The gray building at the very end is the only building left. Evelyn Street was very narrow. We called it the Canyons of Evelyn Street because when the fire truck went down through there, the siren would bounce off the buildings and almost deafen you if you were on the back of the truck. So these ladies are having a discussion in the middle of the street. Coming around the bend, I think we see a milk truck. Okay, Rutland Fire Department. This is my part right here that I love. This is engine 1. This is a 1919 or 1921 American La France pumper. And what was going on here was, this was grass fire season, and I'm assuming it might have been also Good Friday. And the trucks were in and out all day here, answering various alarms. So engine 1 has probably just returned. Up the street, just you can see a Coca-Cola sign, and that was what they called the Palace Diner. Later it became Bruton's. Well-known coffee, donuts, breakfast, lunch. The firemen used to go up there during their lunch and dinner hours because they used to work 24 hours, 3 days straight, believe it or not. So they would get a lunch hour and a dinner hour. And they would be up there, and what they did was they installed a bell up there that would, if the bell was struck in the station, the bell would ring in the diner, and the fireman would run back. So engine 1 is going to back in. You'll see the driver pop his head up because he drives on the right side. The downtown fire station, which is currently the city clerk's office. Some young boys out front with bikes watching the firemen. Okay, this is the pickup truck, called the grass fire truck in those days. It carried pack pumps, and I guess 4 men went on it. And you're going to see it drive into the station and almost mow down some ladies walking by. But the reason being is that in those days there were no radios. So when they returned from an alarm, they would have to drive in and say to the desk man, where's the next call? Especially in grass fire season. And then they would back out and then respond. The other trucks would answer if there were more calls than the grass fire truck could answer. So you'll see them drive in, and the desk was right to the left in those days. And they're backing out, and I believe they're going to respond here in a moment. Here's engine 1 has already gone and come back from another call, so they're going to back in. And they'll just get in, and then you're going to see them roar out the door. This might be the gentleman giving them the word, I'm not sure. There they go. 4 men on the truck, and then you're going to see Chief Koltonsky responding in car 7. There is the chief right there. This must be a serious call. So here's engine 3. Now engine 3 is the truck I used to chase with Jack Vinn and Chuck Shaplow in the late 50s and early 60s. This is a 1936 Buffalo quad. Called it a quad because it carried hose, water, ladders, and it pumped. This truck was in service for Rutland until 1963. Another interesting point is the gentleman driving has a tie on. So that tells me that he was the desk man, and he was the last man in the station, and they got a call and he had to go on it. So either they blew the whistle to call in more help, or he grabbed a civilian. I'm not sure who's riding with him, but he's not in gear. So you'll see him back in engine 3, and the gentleman on the passenger side gets on the running board to direct him because the doors were narrow downtown. Now you're going to see some gentlemen walking by with lunch pails, and I'm guessing these gentlemen are from house scale, maybe a change of shift, I'm guessing. So this might have been around 3 o'clock. And then you'll see engine 3 back in. Now here comes the ladder truck. Now usually the ladder truck had 2 men on it, a driver and a tiller man on the back. But for the cameraman, as you can see here, they had, I think, 6 men, 2 up front, 3 on the side, and the tiller man. So they were, I would say, posing for the cameraman. Maybe they came in on the whistle, I'm not sure. and they're going up Washington Street. Now, the building on the corner has been torn down now for a parking lot, but that was called the Rutland Inn, and then it became known as the Foley House. The truck goes up the street and then comes around the block. Here they are back again. You're going to see them back in. That's Mickey McCurrier on the running board. And to the right, let's see, right there, the man in the white shirt right there is Chief Goltonsky. And the man with the baldish head, I don't know if you can see him or not, but that's Perch Hurley. And he was my idol growing up. He always reminded me of Mr. Clean. He was about 6'4", 5", bald head. He always wore a great t-shirt like Mr. Clean. I asked him once if he'd put an earring in his ear and I could take a picture, and I won't tell you what he said. But anyways, a great memory, and there's Ladder 1 backing back into the old station downtown. This is Chief Goltonsky, Mayor Henry Carpenter, and Police Chief William Fox, and they're posing in front of Engine 3. Many people with a movie camera don't know what to do. They're not used to. This young lady took up pipe smoking at a young age. I'm not sure who she is, but she is on a sandbox. And I like that because many of us had sandboxes growing up, or your neighbor had one and you played in it. And this quick shot of her, I just don't know who she is or where it was. But now we're looking at the J.C. Penney store on Center Street, which later became the Wonder Store, and then part of it became Hawley's Florist. So the far right section was Hawley's, and today there's an entrance to the transit center right through there. And you're going to see some ladies, shoppers, I believe, going in. Might be a sale going on. There they go. Montgomery Ward store was on Merchants Row. Today it's called Aaron's. It's across from the Knights of Columbus. It was a department store, catalog store. It opened in 1930, and believe it or not, it suffered a serious fire in 1931, which gutted it, but they rebuilt it and reopened and stayed downtown till 1975, I believe, when the Great Rutland Mall opened and it moved up there. And this is the staff of the Paramount Theater. There's 4 ushers, if you notice, to keep order inside, throw out unruly patrons. And they had a large staff there at the Paramount. This gentleman, I don't know who he is. Very friendly man. He looks like a downtown businessman, but I don't know who he is. Now this gentleman is selling what I believe is newspapers. It's called Consolation. It says it's not afraid to print the truth. The price is 5 cents. And I'm not sure if it was a Rutland publication or what. Behind him you'll notice a Foley's laundry truck. And then as I'm looking up this street, I see a cafe sign, but I'm really not sure if that's Segali's or not. But anyways, this gentleman is selling his wares. This is the Paramount Theater marquee. This is the second marquee they had. The first one resembles the present marquee that's there now. Second one was this one. Third one was the one many of us are familiar with from the 1950s. And these marquees lit up. They were yellow, they were red. It might be called gaudy today, but I really liked them. The Flynn Theater in Burlington has one similar to this. And let's see, The Man Who Lost Himself is on with Brian Ahern, 1941. So let's see, Center Street. These two gentlemen I don't know, but they look like they might work in a pharmacy. Young ladies walking down the street. Okay, Mickey McCurrier, Rutland fireman that you saw in the ladder truck. And he was also the projectionist at the Paramount Theater. And he's the father of Nancy McCurrier, Michelle McCurrier, and Tommy McCurrier. Tommy became a firefighter in Connecticut and retired as an officer not too long ago. And I played cards with Mickey in 1966 and 67 at Station 2. Nice man. And he's walking towards the camera with a little grin. This man, I have no idea, but he's enjoying himself. He's going to walk right into the cameraman. Okay, this is the Hotel Brock on South Main Street. This is at the corner of Ingram Avenue. It was built in the late 1790s, I believe, and it stayed a hotel well into the 50s, 1950s. Then the Christ the King Parish bought it, turned it into a convent for nuns. It was finally closed down by the city and state for too many fire code violations, and it was finally torn down in 1992 as a parking lot. And you're going to see Christ the King School, just in a minute, there it is, without the second floor or the top floor, and that wasn't put on until 1950. A lot of elm trees there. Here's the Berwick Hotel downtown at the corner of Center Street and Whale Street. And you'll see a nice shot down Center Street, especially of all the light poles. They all had 5 globes in those days. And here's a shot looking down Center Street also, and the building down the street that shows a little red, that's the J.J. Newberry 5 and 10 cent store. Rutland had 4 of them. They had Kresge's, Woolworth's, Fishman's, and Newberry's. And Newberry's was there till 1955 when it, I guess, went out of business. So that's Center Street in front of the Berwick. Very busy day, a lot of traffic. Looks like Al Capone going by. There's the Bardwell Hotel and the railroad station across the street. Bardwell is at the corner of Strong's, or Merchants Row, excuse me, and Washington Street. And you can see all the elm trees around the railroad station. Nice shot of Merchants Row. There's the fire station and police station gas pump. Now there's a fire helmet on there, but that's nothing to do with the fire department, because Texaco was called Fire Chief Gasoline, and the reason being was a comedian named Ed Wynn had a radio show, and he played a character called the Fire Chief, and Texaco sponsored him, hence that's where that came from. So we're looking down Merchants Row, and you'll see the Swift Meat Company on the left, which was probably right opposite Washington Street, which is now the entrance to the plaza. Love those elm trees. The Rutland Restaurant Annex was next to the Rutland Restaurant, the Rutland News Shop, and then Beauchamp and O'Rourke's. And the problem here is these buildings are in the shade. The sun is on the west side right now. We're on Merchants Row heading down towards Kresge's. We're in front of maybe McClellan's. Nice shot of the Grand Theater marquee again, and a friendly gentleman waving. This is the corner of Library and Grove. This is the entrance to the Baxter Estate, Grove Hall, or Crestwood Apartments, Crestwood Hotel, I'm sorry, depending on what year it was. This is where the Rutland Junior High gymnasium and school is located right now. I believe the building that you're looking at way in back might have been used by the high school for their athletic complex in the back, their training complex in the 50s and 60s. The wall on Grove Street is still there to an extent, but what you're looking at here is gone. The 2 famous dogs were on top of the pillars there. They were melted down for scrap metal in World War II for the war effort. As you pan across Grove Street, I guess it would be, you see the wall. Briefly, up and back is a slight glimpse of the Crestwood Hotel, and it's probably the only moving picture I've ever seen of it. And it's brief, but it's up there. So this is the Masonic Temple on Washington Street across from City Hall, which is still there and hasn't been altered very much, maybe some vines on it. And then in the rear you'll see the back of the Strand Theater on Whale Street. And then as the camera comes back, you will see the sign on the Bardwell Hotel for the Bardwell Garage, which was located out in the rear. Wilson Clothing on Merchants Row and the Mead Building had 2 entrances, one on Merchants Row and one on Center Street. And you're going to see the staff of Wilson Clothing come out in a moment and wave to the cameraman, pose for the cameraman. Now, I've got a little interesting tidbit here. The gentleman with the tape measure around his neck, his name was Nazir Ostagi. He had been there since 1890, and this is 1941, and I believe he was there well through the 40s. And the gentleman to his right, taller gentleman, is Hayden Kennedy. And Hayden sold me a pair of shoes. I remember in the 1960s he was still there. And then you're going to see a gentleman come out in the background. He'll come out and wave in a minute. And that is Carlton Wilson, I believe, the owner of Wilson's Clothing. And he lived to be 92 or 93. This gentleman is holding Mr. Ostag's hand, if you noticed. So he must have been trying to mug for the camera or something. And Mr. Ostag is hanging on to him. And they all head back in. Okay, this is a good one. This is the corner of Nichols and West Street. And the Rutland Hospital sign is pointing the way down the street. Well, the gentleman in the black suit is our friend again with the crutch. And I believe he's with Kitty Paul, who was the cashier at the Paramount Theater. Now we're looking up West Street, and notice how wide the sidewalk is. I thought it was a road at first, and I realized it was a sidewalk. And tree lined on both sides with wonderful elm trees. But the building that is just sticking out to the left, you can just about see the little rough brown edges of it. That was called the Ross House. And in 1941, it was the oldest house in Rutland. It was built in either 1770 or 1790. There's a debate on it. It has the uniqueness of never having been painted. Clapboards were never fixed, and it never had any electricity. And I only know this from an article I read about it from 1943 when they unfortunately tore it down. But how it lasted that long is amazing. And that is the location now of Jones Donuts, is on that location now. It was always a vacant lot when I was young, but it's nice to go back and see the history of what used to be there. So it's Kitty Paul, I believe, is waving away, and there's that gentleman. He just doesn't want to smile for some reason. I don't know why. So now we switch footage here, and we're going to see a shot of Route 4 coming into Rutland over by Chet's gas station with some more fraternal club advertisements. You can see Immaculate Heart of Mary Church way down at the end of the tracks. In those days it was called Sacred Heart of Mary. Name was changed in 1949. This gentleman, I believe, might be William B. Shangra, owner of Shangra's Pharmacy, but I'm not sure. But he's very distinguished looking as he walks across Center Street. And you'll see a nice shot of the hill. This is the Kresge store on Merchants Row. This is now the Green Mountain Innovation Center. Eastman's moved in there at some point in the 1980s. Kresge's was there from 34 until 1961, then they went out of business. And next to them was the Liggett drugstore. So I'm not sure if the staff here is from Liggett's or Kresge's, but they're out there being very friendly for the cameraman. Nice group. Now this, we've debated on this one. We think this is Mansfield Place, and there's quite a few scenes of this street, and people have identified various houses, so I think we're pretty safe to say that's Mansfield Place. And I like this section here because it shows a lot of Rutland people, how they dressed, how they acted. And as I say, many people don't realize, you know, it's a movie camera, and they really don't know what to do. But just nice, friendly people. Then you'll see this gentleman might be the postmaster. I don't know. This is down at the Federal Building on West Street, and he looks like he might be somebody fairly important. And he's about to be photobombed by this gentleman coming out the door. These are recruiters. I believe one is Navy and one might be Army, but I'm not sure. And they would be very busy in the coming years, unfortunately. Okay, this is the Knights of Columbus building on Merchants Row. And what's interesting here is the two buildings to its right were torn down in 1955 for parking for the First National Store, which has not been built yet, by the way. That was built a year later in '42. The garage sign is for the Merchants Row Garage, which was, the driveway was between the two buildings, and it was out and back. It was quite a large business, and it was in operation, I'd say, at least 40 years. It ended in 1954 or 5 when the other buildings were torn down. And then to the left of the KSC is Rondo's Bakery. Now, Rondo's Bakery had the best maple buns I've ever had in my life, and that's what I always remember about them. They were a nickel a piece and 6 for a quarter, and I would go down on my bike and usually buy one and eat it on the way home. And before Rondo's, it was called Renaud's, but it was always a French name. Knights of Columbus, you'll see the side entrance in a minute here. Spent a lot of time in there. Montgomery Ward's was across the road from the Knights of Columbus, like I said before, but now we get to see the staff, or at least some of them come out for the cameraman. Windows are getting washed in the background. The manager, though, is a little concerned that we don't get a shot of the sign, so he tells the cameraman to make sure you get that sign. Okay, there it is again, Montgomery Ward. Nice group. Now we're on West Street, and we're looking up West Street Hill. We're in front of the Clement building, which used to be the Ross Huntress building. Now Little Harry's is in there, Chamber of Commerce and Castleton dorms. Very pretty young lady. Now we flash over to the front of City Hall, police station. I don't know who these gentlemen are, if they're being arrested or what's going on. Maybe they're paying their taxes, I'm not sure. They seem too happy for that, though. Here's the Jewish Center on Grove Street. Now this used to be the Baxter Library. So visualize General Baxter, who owned the Crestwood Hotel, Baxter Estate, Grove Hall, also had a library, and this was his library, and it was donated to the Jewish community, I think in the late 1920s or early 1930s, but they had a formal ceremony, and it's still the Jewish Center today with an addition on the back. I believe they used a lot of the stones in the wall you're looking at for the addition. And this is the only shot you'll see of the high school, Rutland High School. This is Immaculate Heart of Mary Church. You're looking on the south side, and I'm guessing this might be Easter because there seems to be a lot of bonnets, hats, colorful hats, a little wind, and we're looking out in front, and you're looking down at the corner of Grant Avenue and Lincoln Avenue at a Cape Cod house that I thought was new and in the 50s, but apparently it was there in 1941. The film is being taken from 10 Lincoln Avenue, which was not the school in those days, it was just a house. And you'll see the people walking up the rear walkway. The house must have had some shrubbery around it that shows here. And they're walking towards the rectory, the old rectory. And now this is the Congregational Church on Court Street. And next to it you will see the Rutland Library. And before the Rutland Library, it was the Federal Building. When they built the post office in 1931, it became the library. They've changed the entrance there a little bit. And this is the County Courthouse across the street from the library. That looks still pretty much the same today. There's an addition on the back. Here's the Baptist Church next to the library going down Center Street Hill. Lincoln Iron Works is now the home of the Winter Farmers Market on West Street. And across is Holmes Iron Company. A lot of industry in Rutland in those days. So we had Holmes Iron, Lincoln Iron Works. Oh, we're back on Mansfield Place. And we've got the family dog out. There's Grandma. And you're going to see the world's best dressed lawnmower here in a minute. Grandma's waving to the camera. There he goes. That's the way to mow your lawn, maybe on Easter. And those lawnmowers were very good if they were sharpened. They cut grass very well. You're looking down Mansfield Place towards the dead end on the back side of East Street, actually. Now she's telling him, come on over here, we got more work to do. So that's the way you pulled the lawnmower. You tipped it the opposite way. Nice shots of older houses in 1941. Oh, we're mowing again. Okay, now we're in black and white again on Center Street. Cars parked diagonally in those days. And this lady is smiling for the cameraman, showing off her fur. There's Shangri-La's Pharmacy. The Eagles Club is over it. You can see gentlemen in the window, and they'll be waving at you in a minute. There they go. There you are. Greetings from the Eagles Club. These gentlemen work in Shangri-La's Pharmacy, but not sure who they are. Friendly. Uh-oh, we got a little problem here. Somebody's got a bumper hooked, maybe. Some good Samaritans have stepped in to help out, as they did in those days. Come on back, you're all set. Okay, this is the recruiting center on Center Street. Uncle Sam wants you for the Army. And then we come down Center Street a little bit. This is down by the Savings Bank, looking up towards the Paramount. Young lady's walking towards the camera. Watch out. This gentleman is risking his life here. He's trying to cross into traffic coming off Evelyn Street, but he's busy watching the cameraman, so luckily he made it, I guess. Yeah. Now we're back to the Gryphon building, Carbine Clothing at Merchants Row and West Street. Grand Theater. This is my baby right here. I spent many hours in this theater. Nice shot of the marquee out in front. If that truck wasn't there, you could see the ticket booth very well. We've got Robin Hood of the Pecos with Roy Rogers and George Hayes. Well, kids today and kids then never knew who George Hayes was because he was really Gabby Hayes. And he would always say in the movies, "You're darn tootin' partner," with a gravelly voice that I don't have. And you'll see the staff of the Grand come out, but I honestly don't know who they are. There's a bicycle in front of the Grand, but it's not mine. And here they are. That's probably the manager, assistant manager, waving. Got a little corsage on there, buttonniere or something. And this, not sure who this gentleman is, but it's just great to see the Grand Theater and relive some old memories. There's the Grand. This lady is going to challenge the cameraman, and he's not going to move, and she's not going to move. Okay, there's McClellan's Drugstore on Merchants Row. Brief shot. And then we're looking down Merchants Row towards the railroad station. That man's got a jug, I think. Looks like it. Oh, wonder what's in it. And we're looking at the corner of Merchants Row and West Street, which was central Vermont in those days. Watch out. Ooh, ooh. Okay, almost had a fender bender. Today it's the Castle and College dorm. And this young lady's also going to challenge the cameraman. Now this scene here is a little film noirish. I don't really know what's going on here, but you're going to see a fellow light a cigarette. It's very brief, but I think it might be Bob Franzoni, but I'm not sure. This gentleman, I don't know who he is, but he looks like he could be an actor. And he's walking on West Street, right around the location of Little Harry's today. Okay, this is very rare to me. This is the Rutland Railroad Yard. And while there's not much activity, it is a moving picture, and you can see the smoke coming out of the chimney of the engine. But it's just a great colorful shot from 1941 from River Street Bridge on a nice sunny day. Service building in the background. Some of the old railroad buildings. This is the Patch Wagner Company on House Street. It was a foundry, part of the Rutland industry, along with the iron companies. House Scale, taken from River Street Bridge, known as the Scale Works. Today it's House Center. This is the Rutland Fire Clay on Curtis Avenue. It was operated by the Perkins family. They made a lot of products connected to stoves and chimneys, etc. This is Bob Carpenter in the middle, walking across the road from the Paramount Theater. I don't know if he took a break from the drugstore and went over to see Tobacco Road, which is a controversial film in its day, or not. But anyways, Bob's coming back to the pharmacy. He gives the cameraman a little wave here. And then I see Carol's Cut Rate. Oh, there's our gentleman with the crutch again, with some more young ladies, trying to get them to walk towards the camera. Now he's going to nonchalantly walk away. Just pretend I'm not here. Okay, now we're at the Trinity Church on West Street. A little history of the Trinity Church. Movie actress Betty Davis married a Rutlander named Arthur Farnsworth, and he died suddenly from a fall in 1943, and his funeral was held here at the Trinity Church, Trinity Episcopal Church. And Betty Davis was here for the funeral, and she entered by a side door so she would not mobbed by the public. I guess they showed her a lot of respect. And she and her husband were also here in 1942 for a bond drive for World War II. They spent the whole day at Meldon School. I think they were at the high school, and then they were at the Armory where a dance was held, and a lot of bonds were sold. So I'm not sure, this is a Sunday obviously at the church. It doesn't look like Easter because I don't see too many colorful hats. And as I say, I wish I knew more people that I could identify. But very patriotic, the flag is out. You'll see more people come out here in a minute. Man tipped his hat to the lady, if you notice. And here comes the parishioners. It could be Easter, but I don't think so. But services were well attended that morning. People walking by on the sidewalk. And that's the parish hall next door. That's where the rector of the church lived. And behind it you can see quickly the Advent Christian Church, which is now the Greek Orthodox Church on Cottage Street. This lady is going to walk slowly with maybe her daughter, posing very dignified. And there's somebody's pet next door at the parish hall. That was torn down in 1965. Rutland Armory on West Street. We're going to see two young ladies here walking towards the camera, but they're not sure what to do, so they admire each other's corsages. Very pretty ladies smiling for the camera. Now this vehicle, I'm not sure where it is, but it does have a license plate on it, and it says Camp Blanding, Florida. Also a Vermont license plate. So these are the gentlemen that the movie was made for, Camp Blanding. These people, I don't know who they are. I don't know if we're still on Mansfield Place or not. But my guess it's something going on. The little girl's well dressed with her little pocketbook and hat, waving to the cameraman. I see corsages. Nice family portrait. There's a Norman Rockwell portrait right there. That is nice. This could be Mansfield Place. I'm not sure though. Now this gentleman, he's quite happy. He's going into the Knights of Pythias with a letter. He might visit the bar for all we know. And these gentlemen are at the railroad station. I think these are inductees into the Army maybe. They all seem to be getting on the train under the watchful eye of that soldier. Gives you an idea of fashion in those days. I would say casually dressed. In a passenger car in the railroad station, a little wave. I see a lunch sign for the lunch counter at the railroad station. There's the conductor, I guess. People on the platform, maybe bidding them goodbye. Cab driver. Drill sergeant, maybe? I don't know. Okay, but here we are downtown. That's the Rutland Savings Bank building at the corner of Center and Merchants. So we're going to look south on Merchants Road towards the service building. Okay, the Rutland High School. Oh, we do have a shot of the high school. Not a big one, but here comes the high school band out the front door. And they're going to perform for the cameraman. And they're going to line up and then march. They're going to march down the sidewalk and then onto the field behind the high school, called the athletic field, where they held football games. The November 11th Classic was played there every other year. So here's the band marching across the field, Church Street in the background. And what I noticed here is there's a drum majorette and then two other drum majorettes, but no others. In my time they would have 5 or 6. Not sure why, but the band is going through their maneuvers. I can hear the strains of Our Director, which was the Rutland High School marching theme song. They put on quite a performance here. They're going to march right into the camera here in a moment. And I don't know any of these people, sadly, but maybe others watching this might. Now you're going to see the high school baseball team posing for the cameraman. Again, I don't know any of these gentlemen. In the background are the bleachers. Sat on those many times watching a game. You can spot the catcher with his gear on. This guy's challenging the cameraman. Church Street in the background. And now we're going to switch to River Street. Now this is amazing to me. This is the MSJ Band coming down River Street, which is so narrow I thought it was a sidewalk at first, but then I realized the sidewalk is to the left. And they're marching by St. Peter's Field, which was quite elaborate in those days because in 1939 it was built as almost a little stadium for the Rutland Royals baseball team. So the MSJ Band is coming down River Street with quite a few majorettes, if you notice, a lot more than Rutland High School. And they're being followed on each side of the street, I think by maybe St. Peter's School students. So, and they have quite a large band. I was surprised to see this. I think they have more members than the high school band did in 1941. This drum major, male, is doing quite a job spinning that baton. And then he's got at least 5 or 6 drum majorettes behind him. That must be the band leader in the green. And bringing up the rear is a bicyclist. And there's the stadium. You can see that a little bit better. St. Peter's Field, I should say. The guy with the baton is doing a nice job. I would have dropped it at least 3 times by now. And there's the leader of the band, music director. MSJ had a theme song too, but I can't remember what it was, but very well known. Gosh, that could be me on the bike there 15 years later. This is the trestle on River Street where the railroad crossed. I don't think the actual trestle is still there, but these are the abutments on either side. This side might still be there to an extent, but the other side was removed to put in the new Door Bridge. So they're marching towards Door Bridge, the old Door Bridge, and then they're going to reverse direction here and come back. I don't know, they must have made a U-turn somewhere. And there's the other side. That abutment is now gone and the road goes through there now. MSJ Band marching proudly up River Street, back to the Academy. This is St. Peter's Church on Common Avenue. The statue of Father Boylan can be seen there. And we're going to see a quick glimpse of Eddie Vale's house next door on Common Avenue. And this is the steeple that was severely damaged in the 1950 hurricane that had to be taken down. There's the rectory where I saw a mattress fire in 1951. It's next door to the church. Nice shot of the front of the church. I'm not sure who this priest is. I've analyzed this quite a few times, and I want to say it might be Father Connor, but I really am not sure. But it's 1941, and he's walking towards the rectory. Oh, here comes Officer Gino Franzoni again. He's tipping his hat. Parishioners coming out of Christ the King Church. You can see Christ the King School in the background without the top floor. Again, I don't think this is Easter because I don't see too many Easter bonnets. Now we switch to Montpelier, and this is the state capitol, and I guess they included this just for a little patriotism. That's the goddess of agriculture on the dome, but I can't remember what her name is. Nice shots of the Capitol building in 1941. And you'll see a shot of the Vermont flag flying proudly. And then the American flag flying proudly for the Rutland Guardsmen at Camp Blanding, Florida. Our Rutland, 1941. I hope you enjoyed it. I had fun narrating it. Hope it brought you a little entertainment.
We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know that as you saw me go,